custom paints for whoever, wants something special. If you have a Benjamin Moore paint on your wall you need to match, or a fabric you need to match for a client, we can do that. So that sort of grew into, that was one aspect. And then Rhonda can address how we went from there to carrying other wonderful Swedish makers, lighting, accessories.
To answer your question about the antiques, how we started with that, I think we had a background. We grew up with Scandinavian design, and we both grew up together. We met each other in the 5th grade, so we knew each other for many, many years, and we were best friends. And we had a love for the Scandinavian decorative arts. And my great aunt was a dealer in Stockholm, so we had entree to a lot of these amazing dealers and auction houses, and we started really researching and collecting, and we started the business, and then we brought pieces over, and then every 3 months we went to Sweden. We spent a lot of time with historians from the Nordic Museum. We had a mentor that we worked with for 20 years, and we drive all the way around the countryside, and we went to farmers, really up in the north, and we around Lake Fulgen and Fallen and Leksand and wherever, and we went and we bought and collected antiques for our clients. So that's sort of how it all started. And from that, we became more and more curious, and we really gathered a ton of knowledge from all of these wonderful people that we met. And we started wanting to write books because our clients were asking us the stories about what they were buying. We wouldn't just sell an armoire, we would tell the story of where it came from. We tried to find them provenance, to the point where we knew who the farmer was and what farm it came from and who bartered what for what. And those stories then developed into our books. And from that, like Edie was saying, we wanted to keep handicraft alive. So we started working with an artisan, or several small factories in T-Borough. And we wanted to keep classical forms to go with our antiques. So we developed a line of reproduction furniture using, native woods from Sweden, and we would import, and we still work with the factories in T-Borough. And then that sort of developed into more interior design, because our clients wanted us to do interior designs for them. And then we sort of expanded the decades and brought in mid-century, and with that fabrics, and it's been 28 years, almost 29 years. So it's evolved over the years.
So these items we're looking at that John has on the screen, this is your line.
Yes.
And they've been made to look like some of the things, that obviously is very intentional there, but some of these things they've got a certain level of patina to them. Are you doing stuff to make it look like that, or those are actually the older items?
Those are reproduction pieces that are based on Rococo, Baroque, Rococo, and Gustavian forms. And we wanted to modernize them a little bit by adding some fun colors. We have traditional colors that you would find in the Gustavian and Rococo periods, but then also putting in a yellow, a pops of color that are more arts and crafts, sort of brings in that period, and more of the Carl Larsson colors, and modernizing today's, when you look at sort of Heller furniture, or you look at any sort of modern, fun, funky, contemporary form, they're using pop colors. Some of those pop colors we wanted to sort of incorporate into the more traditional forms to give it a little bit of a fun edge and be playful. So having fun with it too, not being so serious, but bringing really pure antiques, original paint antiques, and mixing them with today's pieces to make them more relevant to today and living today. So
it's a great variety of pieces. Some are with very bright color, and we've also seen many different, what I'd call shades of white. And we've seen very intricate designs and very smooth, modern, mid-century. It's a great range. I think that when the average American thinks of Swedish design, I hate to use a bad word here, but I think they think of IKEA. And I'm wondering, has IKEA sort of ruined or have they contributed to our understanding of Scandinavian design? When Americans think, oh yeah, IKEA, very sleek, very modern. But on the other hand, and accessible to everybody and a worldwide phenomenon. And do you think that the response to IKEA, as successful as they are, is because it is a universal need for a simpler, cleaner design that most of us are looking for?
Well, I think that is the basis of all Scandinavian design, good design for everyone and form and function. So from IKEA to, the purest forms of Gustavian, Rococo, or any other Carl Johan, any other period in Scandinavian design, it's all about those same basic components. Good design for everyone. So IKEA speaks to that. It's all, they were the first people to flat pack, holler to IKEA. They're great. And, it's a fantastic company to have worldwide. They're very focused on sustainability and all those things, which is fantastic. And, I think it's introduced Scandinavian design to a whole world, which is great. And they are very translatable to, and a lot of Scandinavian interiors have a fine original paint piece that they inherited from their grandparents, but then next to it, they have an IKEA chair. So, hey, it all works together. And that's the whole
Is it fair to say, though, that after I graduate, say my 20s, and I'm shopping in your Nantucket store or your Westport store, IKEA isn't quite meeting the need. It's not something I can put in my Nantucket home alongside the fine piece of furniture. And from that, we said, oh, I need functional chairs. I don't need $5,000 chairs around the dining room table. I need good, solid, Swedish design, and I can't go IKEA. Right?
But you can go IKEA and you can go contemporary, a master craftsman that maybe you commissioned to do a piece, some Scandinavian incredible furniture maker, or maybe you invest in mid-century Scandinavian maker. The whole thing is that in Scandinavian design, you mix. So it's all about mixing and the eclecticism about your lifestyle, John. There's no, I could, I can't, I shouldn't. Oh no, I can't put that next to this. That's not how Scandinavians live. They live beautifully, they live practically, as about what moves them. And you can put, fine art next to an IKEA stool, next to a
Do we have an
Rococo
example of
chair.
something
It's
like
all
that?
about the mix. It's all about the beauty of mixing beautiful things that you love, good design.
Is there something on your website that has that conflagration of all of those things that I can see?
Well, here's their
Because
Instagram page.
It sounds confusing to me. Not that it doesn't come together and it's unbelievable,
Well,
but it just sounds.
We don't have any IKEA pieces on our Instagram page, so
You don't.
I'm sorry for that.
Okay.
We are updating our website. We have all this new inventory that is not on the website. So our apologies for everything looking not as comprehensive as it really is in the stores. We encourage everyone to come to Westport and Nantucket to visit us, of course. And
how I'm living, I'm sitting on an IKEA sofa right now.
yeah.
I have 19th century Scandinavian textile above me. I have an Ames, sorry, you see my water bottle. I have an Ames, chair here. I have Joseph Frank on the wall. You can see, there's my IKEA sofa. So it's good form for everyone. You mix, and it's about having the confidence to look at good design. And there are things at IKEA that are beautifully designed, and why not put it in your house? Why not have it mixed in with a fine piece of you know, a 19th century or an 18th century armoire that is beautifully painted and constructed. It's all about the confidence to mix and having that eye and develop that eye and not to be fearful, because really it's about design. You're not going to look in 100 years and go, oh, that's an IKEA piece. You're going to be like, oh, that's a really interesting piece. It was made by IKEA, and it's, you know, it's more about a confident feeling of how you want to live. Like Edie was saying, you know, I want to have certain pieces around me, and I happen to love that table. I'm not going to be upset that it's like having a Gap t-shirt with an Hermes loafer. It works beautifully, and if you feel it and it works, go for it. You know, there's no rules.
But does any of this, for lack of a better expression, does any of it shout to a budgetary constraint? I couldn't get, you know, all of the really nice old stuff, so I got this thing at IKEA, and I, you know.
Oh, I don't think so at all. I think that
Not at all.
yeah, I think I want the look, but I want the functionality. And I've got some antiques in my house that you can't sit on, Roberto, because they would probably fall apart, you know, underneath you. So I need to have good, sturdy furniture in my dining room because of the way it gets used. But, you know, some of the other pieces, I think the less sturdy pieces, I could put perhaps to the side in my living room. They're mostly for looking at and occasionally sitting on. No, so I totally get it. And I don't want to necessarily put a piece of IKEA as the centerpiece of my living room. You know, I want you know, IKEA has a place for it. But I think as my tastes got more sophisticated as we got older and we had more budget and more wherewithal, we wanted to get better pieces. We wanted to upgrade. And how do you upgrade if the next step is a 200-year-old tapestry? And I think you're fitting that middle of the market where I want to upgrade, but I don't necessarily have $20,000 for a piece.
I think you can mix.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Yes.
I think you can mix everything. I mean, I have myself the coaches that are from IKEA. And I have an 18th century chest of drawers from Sweden and some Danish Louis XVI chairs next to it. So I think it's possible to mix everything.
Absolutely. And, you know, you'll always find those that are collectors and pure collectors who only want, you know, 18th century, 19th century, 17th century pieces. And there is a market for that. And there are people who are purists. And we speak to that too. You know, yeah. You speak to every facet of collecting, and it's really about collecting. Maybe you can't fill your whole house with antiques at this moment, or you know, an Arne Jacobsen something or another. But it's the fun of collecting, and it's the fun of doing it over time that I love doing and Edie loves doing. And it's okay with Scandinavian. It's normal with Scandinavian design to be able to. It's just about having the confidence and putting it together, and
the humor and the personalization. This is what people get when you said, "Oh, I'm a little intimidated about this show, and Scandinavian design is so serious." No, it's not. It's whimsical. It's humorous. It's personal. People personalize things. Everything, you know, what I love is that, you know, the Almoga, the folk furniture, everything was personalized for a child, a wedding, a baby, a harvest, whatever you're going to celebrate, you know, was made specifically for that couple or that person or that baby. And there's always some little whimsical thing or a little hidden joke. And, you know, Scandinavian art and color is of textiles are so vibrant and colorful and fun, and you know, it's not all serious. And I think so. I'd love to touch on that. Maybe Pascal, you could help us with, you know, from your perspective about that sort of aspect of Scandinavian design that you see throughout history, as we do.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's very whimsical. because a lot of things are personally made. You can, I mean, for normally they got a chest for their wedding for all the linen, and you have some painter paint it for you the specific way you wanted it, and they have their initials on it and the year they were married and everything. You have big cabinets, everything. They had even beds built into the house. They had a decorative painter painting the ceilings. The whole room was according to what they wanted to have, and you could have even the flooring could be like painted with an Aubusson carpet because they couldn't afford the textiles, so they painted the carpet on the floor. And it's a very different kind of way the Scandinavians. Of course, they used a lot of paint because they didn't have everything. So I mean, in the 18th century and early 19th century, they did that. And then when we moved to the more modern period, they were very impressed with all the exotic woods that they got imported. So they did, furniture in teak wood, rosewood. They used oak. That we didn't have a lot of oak anymore, so we had to import it because the British took everything for building boats in the 18th century. But so I think it's been a whole period that has changed over the years from the 18th century to the 19th century to now the 20th century, and then the Scandinavian style that came in around 1950. There has been more elegance and more sobriety, more like Art Nouveau, Art Deco kind of functionalism that has been introduced. And a lot of people think that, the Scandinavians only have minimalistic homes with just a few pieces of furniture and nothing else, no curtains, nothing, but that's not true. That's only what you see in books.
When can you, I'm not sure who to direct the question at, but I perceive that there was a moment in time when this became the hot style. And I don't know whether it was because of like that chair you just showed me, that mid-century modern chair, that the world started to discover Scandinavian design. I think that, what was that chair you just showed me?
The Ames chair?
Yes, show us the Ames chair. That Ames chair is an iconic chair that a lot of Americans were first introduced to in about 1960. And so I think that was probably the beginning of the movement, where we were moving away from all this typical brown furniture, American and English brown furniture, into this new exciting style of Ames chairs and Gerrit Rietveld and Piet Mondrian, and the new modern, what we'd seen in painting translated into the decorative arts. And people were, but I think then for a while it came out of favor, and now I think once again it's back in favor. Is that a fair characterization? And what caused it? Who's causing the world to discover or rediscover Swedish design?
I think the world needs calm. So I think when you go into your home, especially everything that's happened the last 30 years globally, I think we're under attack. You just feel, from pollution or living or people. It's just everything in our head with the computers, everything hitting us. And then all of these global conflicts. And I think there's something about going into a Scandinavian designed room or space, or at least with the elements of Scandinavian design and beautiful contemporary or Scandinavian modern furniture, that's very soothing. It's almost like taking a deep breath. I find, when I go in, just walking into these spaces. And I think there's something to be said about that. There's negative space, there's beautiful design, everything's in restraint, and there's a balance. And it's that balance that we are missing, all of us personally, on so many levels. And that's what I think why people have responded.
I totally agree.
Is it coming into fashion now, or has it always been in fashion?
I think it's coming into, it's been in fashion for a while, but it's really coming into fashion now, especially here in Scandinavia. We feel like the furniture and other Scandinavian, especially lighting, is become very, very popular among the young generation. I mean, we have people who are 25 to 40 years old only buying secondhand, also because it's more environmentally friendly, but also these products that were built in, like the Norwegian, for example, the furniture that was built locally here in the 1960s is extremely good quality, and you can pick it up for not that expensive, maybe a couple of $100 for a good dining chair. And it's very durable, and it's very simple and comfortable, and people, the next generation now is really buying it and using that, and it's a statement. So it's I think it's very good for the environment and for that they're using the Scandinavian design and reusing it again.
Mm-hmm.
No, I think you're onto it. I can't prove it because I'm not in the world of furniture and home furnishings and home design, but I can tell you that the mid-century modern and that sleek modern look was out of favor for a while. That was not getting premium. They were not getting paid for the design. And now I think, and it's been in the last maybe 10 years that that those houses, those designs in my world are now fetching a premium. And if I ask the millennials who are out there and are buying, and I say, so can I introduce you to this Chippendale chair? They would wrinkle their nose and say, what? I'm not, that brown, intricate, carved, no, that's not really the modern look. That doesn't really go with anything else in my home. And I think that they are gravitating toward, and I think it's been for the last 10 years, but I just suspect that. I can't prove it. And I was just wondering whether you're seeing that kind of thing in the auction galleries, and you're seeing that kind of response in your showrooms, where the millennials in particular are like, you know what, I don't want my house to be decorated like my parents' house, and certainly not like my grandparents' house. And this modern or mid-century modern and mid-century modern speaks to me. I think it's sort of a bigger movement, and I think it's about 10 years old.
I think you're right. I mean, it's a big change now. We feel it in the auction business that 18th century stuff, unless it's a very good design or by a good maker, it's very hard to sell. The 19th century stuff is worse, and now the mid-century stuff is really going. If it's in good condition and great design, I mean, it's going way up, and it's a whole new generation. We get new people coming in, and that we've never seen before in the auction business, buying these things. And also not only furniture, but also porcelain, ceramics, cutlery, simple design, silver, Georg Jensen, Danish stuff, Swedish, Finnish. Finnish have very good design as well. Some very good Norwegian designers from 1960s, 70s is doing really, really well.
But so did you not? You just said that the mid-century stuff is selling really, really well, but the older things aren't selling as well. So I'm just curious. Doesn't that mean it's out of favor, or are we just talking about select pieces for designing a room, like John was explaining?
I think in our business, I mean, quality is the first thing. I mean, when you go to real collectors, I mean, a fantastic 18th century, 19th century, and 20th century, doesn't matter. If it's the best quality, it will always do well, even though if it's not in fashion. But I mean, the best makers and the best pieces of furniture always sells well. There will always be a collector out there, but the movement now is more towards mid-century and 1960s, 70s, very good quality seating and cabinets and I mean applied arts and kind of silver and everything is become very popular, because there is a new generation coming into the market. The people who are 70, 80 years old are moving into the smaller flats with lots of windows, no wall space, and they don't need that stuff anymore. So it's a lot of objects coming on the market, and it's hard to get rid of for the price that they paid for it. So I mean, people will have to take a loss there, and then there's the new generation who wants different things. So we have to go and look for other objects than we used to look for.
See, we're finding, because we're in America, so the houses are, you know, new, a lot of them that we are helping people furnish. And it's interesting, we're finding we've had the best sales of antiques, Gustavian and Rococo mirrors and furniture that we've had in years. But I think that's also because we are in, you know, on the East Coast of America. And, you know, it's sort of a different way of using the furniture. And obviously always these gorgeous mirrors we have, they are stunning, whether you put them, you know, in a Park Avenue apartment or whether they're in a country home, you know, in New Hampshire. Maine. Beautiful.
All the small objects like mirrors, they do really well here as well. I mean, it's like a big brown cabinet.
No, we understand.
Yeah.
Edie, is there a certain?
It's funny because we're having a different experience, but it's just sort of, I think also there's a lot of people who, you know, they haven't decorated with antiques yet. So they're excited about it a little bit. These people in their 20s and 30s coming up.
So that's Rhonda, the demographic
that
you're talking about. You're talking about a younger demographic, 20s and 30s. This is where you're seeing the flow.
20s,
no, all across the board.
All across, you know, what we're doing with our interior design focus, our philosophy for our interior design division is that we're trying to show pieces, interiors that are mixed. So it's not about one period, being pure to one period. It's really the transitional European flavor. So people are having much more of a confident way of approaching their interiors where they're not getting stuck in, I want a French country house, I want a Scandinavian house, I want a, you know, only mid-century, Art Deco, whatever it is. It's really about, again, going back to being a collector, collecting the pieces that you enjoy and putting it together. So there is that sustainability component that's very big in the younger generation. They're really looking at antiques again because it's sustainable. So they're really investing time and energy in learning about the decorative arts and incorporating pieces that they either inherited or that they're collecting or they're getting at the flea market, whatever it is, but they're mixing it into their interiors. So I think it has more to do with that sustainability component. And also, you know, what we're trying to show out there is you can mix, you can don't be stuck in one period. And we're trying to, and we're seeing that happen with a lot of colleagues who are designing as well. They're taking a more European approach to interiors, I think, is happening here in the US.
I feel the same here actually now, because we have a lot of interior architects who are buying stuff there and bringing in clients, and they want to mix something from the 18th century, 19th century with modern stuff, and also using antique textiles with modern textiles. And so it's a new interest, and also the sustainability is very, very important issue now. And a lot of people are not for buying everything, lots of copies made in China or something for a Rococo thing or something. They don't want that. They want something made in Europe or Scandinavia, and that they can repaint or they can reuse. It's very important for them.
So does this go for art as well? Sorry, John. Does this go for art pieces as well? An old painting and an old frame with regard, you know, something like that, or no?
I mean, for paintings, I would say it doesn't really go. But I mean, there is a lot of interest for the very young generation in the kind of pop art, Scandinavian pop art that is 1965 till 1975. There's a big interest in that period. But there are not that many objects of good quality for sale. But when they come up, they do well. Otherwise, I mean, I can see a lot of pictures are being, you know, they change framing and you know, for kind of anything with glass on it. They put UV glass on it that has no reflection on it, and different matting, and they redo everything so it kind of gets a new look, because you can put a 19th century painting and refresh it with changing the frame and doing things to it so it does go in another setting.
I want to understand the importance of Westport and Nantucket, and because you talked a moment ago about this being perhaps an East Coast phenomenon, so I want to touch on that as well. I mean, Roberto's in New York, and so one of the questions I'm wondering is, well, why not the Hamptons? Why not New York City? I would expect that most important design businesses start with a presence in New York, and then they look to some of the more important suburbs. But you have locations in two of the important suburbs, Westport and in Nantucket. And I'm also wondering, does that speak to the fact that this is a New York and a suburban sort of focus to the business, or are people coming up here and working with your showrooms and your locations decorating their Florida? Because on this show, we've spent a lot of time talking about where are New Yorkers going now. And more, a lot of them are going to Texas, they're going to Florida, and they're spending 6 months of the year down south. It occurs to me that this translates very well to my Florida house and to my Texas house and to my Hilton Head house. And yet you have two locations, both in New England. So let's talk about the Westport idea and the Nantucket, and why two.
Well, John, you said exactly what's happening. We've always been sort of national in our outlook, and our clients have always been national. So although they find us in Connecticut, you'd be amazed how many people come through Connecticut or find us through our website, because we are specialists. And, so we've been in business almost 30 years. So we are known within the industry. There aren't that many Scandinavian specialists really in America. And I like to think that, when people find us and they work with us, we're all about customer service and quality and being there to help, our retail clients as well as our wonderful, designers and architects we work with. And so we really find ourselves, for example, in Nantucket, I would say a large percentage of pieces that people find in our Nantucket showroom wind up leaving the island and sometimes going to California, or Texas or Atlanta. Florida, Palm Beach is huge for us. Obviously, Manhattan, Chicago. So that's sort of that. And in terms of why we didn't open in New York City, we've always been New York centric. All of our clients really have had country homes. We started in Litchfield County. We're just actually opening a third showroom. Our third retail location is opening in New Preston at the end of the month. So we're going to have 3 locations, which we're very excited about. And if you don't know Litchfield County, it really is the anti-Hamptons. So rather than, beach and farms and all that, really Litchfield County is beautiful, estates tucked away, hundreds of acres, tons of privacy. It's for people who don't want to be seen and see anyone on their weekends. So we've been very blessed getting to know tons of wonderful New York clients and international clients. We have clients from London and Rome, and anyhow. So I think Connecticut, it's not a suburban thing. It's sort of, it just happens to be where we are, where we raised our families, where we grew up in Connecticut. It's our home. It's our home. We love it. And we love Nantucket too. We grew up going there as well.
You should try it, Roberto. We're only a couple of train stops away. You could come out here to Connecticut.
Anytime, guys. We're here. Anytime. Let us know. We'd love that.
And
I was going to pop over on my lunch hour today, but I was just running a little bit behind.
Good.
22 minutes away from where I'm sitting. So I think Westport, though, has always been a very important place, and Nantucket differently, but a very important suburb. But it does speak to the suburban nature. Do you find people are coming out and then decorating their New York apartments, or it's mostly what we do when we go to the country? then we decorate with Swedish, in the Swedish style.
We are really national, and we speak to definitely very much a New York client. We're only an hour, Westport's only an hour from New York City. So most people work in the city and come out to Connecticut, or they have their apartment in the city and they have a weekend house in the area that we're in. So we're in the city all the time. We're part of a lot of different boards in the city. So we're very New York centric, as Edie said. And we work with a lot of we're members of the Design Leadership Network and the Decorators Club in New York. And so a lot of different clubs. So we have clients that are in the city. We have colleagues who are in the city. We do a lot of activities, so you kind of look at where we are as just like a little blip to New York. So I think, and why the 3 areas, I think, like Edie said, it's a lifestyle thing. It's also for us as personally, but it's also a logistical thing. When you go multi-store and you go across to California or to Texas or anywhere else, you start having to develop a hub over there in order to have like a fulfillment hub or something. So it becomes a much bigger conversation. So for us to be able to have a spot in Westport and then in Nantucket and now New Preston, it gives us the, logistical ability to service our clients in a way that if we have something in Westport, oh, sure, we'll send it right over to Nantucket for you. So-and-so is going up there tomorrow, we can drive it up. Or, New Preston, give me an hour, I'll be right there. So it's more of a customer service thing and a logistical thing. And why, and one of the reasons we haven't gone to Palm Beach, though we have a lot of clients who are there, and it seems to be like a Nantucket, Connecticut, Palm Beach, New York thing. A lot of our clients in Nantucket have that sort of lifestyle movement. It's just, again, it's 4 or 5 hours away or 12 hours by car. It's a little bit longer to navigate. So we're not that big. And to have that kind of infrastructure would mean that we would have to be bigger and lose some of that special quality. So we just, we're a mom and pop shop. We just want to keep the purity,
Are you going to stay mom and pop? I mean, at one point, let's say somebody in Palm Beach or in LA wanted to open up a franchise or work with you and bring your design sensibility to the West Coast. Is that in your future?
Never say never, but
Okay.
now we're happy. It's our, we're 2 best friends who grew up, did something fun, and we're enjoying what we're doing. And, it's an organic business, and you never know, but I think we want to always maintain the quality and the level of service and the personal touch. So if we can do it in a bigger way, fabulous. But for now, this is sort of, we're growing organically, and it's all good. And we're having fun, which is the most important thing.
I think it's still fascinating to me. A lot of people had written off retail, and they said, it's an amazing website. I'm going to pull it up again. It's an amazing website. It's really comprehensive. This website begins with the home, and I can shop for myself, or studio to the trade. So, and there's so many different categories, and they're so full. So it looks like a comprehensive resource for either my designer or myself.
Yeah.
And yet, so it would cause some people to say, why have a studio? Why have a showroom? And yet I would imagine that it's very important for a lot of people who start on the website and they find a collection they like that speaks to them and they find accessories, but they need to sit in the chair. They need to see how it feels and how it looks in the space. And that's why what I hear you saying is it's still necessary in the 21st century to have a physical location and meet your clients face to face and sit in the space with them and experience the chair or the chest of drawers. It's not old fashioned. It's a necessary part of the business. in New Canaan, we have a Ralph Lauren. He's also in the home furnishings business. And I think that he drives down here personally, periodically, and checks out his store on the weekends. I can always tell when Ralph Lauren is in town because there's always a fancy car parked out in front of his flagship store. But even Ralph would be, even though he's selling on a worldwide basis, still understands the importance of having a physical retail presence. So talk to me about the importance of the physical retail presence.
That's why Ralph is Ralph. Ralph is Ralph because Ralph is the ultimate retailer. Except the only one who's more of an ultimate retailer than Ralph is my best friend, Rhonda Alicia, right here on this show. We're crazy. We love retail. We love telling the story.
In contrast to that, we
love talking about the product that we fell in love with, and all these Scandinavian skull tuna and this crazy pottery we work with. Again, it leaves you, and all these personalities. We've just met all these incredible Danes and Swedes who make these incredible, beautiful products that we sell, and we love telling their stories.
And that's best done face to face.
And meeting clients, though. I think it's about the client, right, Rhonda? We love
all about the personal touch, the stories, meeting the people. I mean, you really lose sight of your business if you don't have a connection to who your market is. And that's what people always say about us, is that we're very approachable. We're very low key, chill. We don't even have business cards. We're so like, it's about just talking to people and telling stories and listening to people tell their stories and connecting. And we had a while when we weren't brick and mortar, and Edie and I both went nuts. We were completely lost because we didn't have that connection, and it's awful. And brick and mortar is hard. It's like being in the restaurant business. It's I think that's a harder business, but it's definitely being grounded and hearing and listening and communicating. And so that's so important. That's key. That's really key.
Yeah, I agree with that. It's very important to have the client touch, and also for people when they come in to see an antique or something, to feel the patination, to see the wear of the piece, and it has some kind of artsy, kind of good feel to it. When you see it, when you touch it, it's a different thing than looking at everything on the internet or just a photograph. You have to see it. You have to pull a drawer. You have to see how it's made, feel the wood. And I think it's very important. And then you get the personal touch with the salesperson, and you get the personal connection with the people and the materials and the merchandise. I think it's highly recommended.
Yeah. Everything comes alive, in stores or the showrooms, or just touching. Patina is so important, especially with the antiques and mid-century pieces, for people to really understand the beautiful paint and the quality and the life it's lived. And it's just, there's nothing like someone coming in. It's very hard. I mean, yes, we can all shop from photographs, but I think, it's so important to educate people by having them come and visit and see,
and loyalty. You build a relationship. It's brand loyalty. It's connection. And Edie and I have never been about somebody coming in and having, making them buy something. It's building the relationship, getting to know them, getting them to be comfortable with us and what they're buying, and letting them know. And some people, it's taken years to buy one piece, and they come in and eventually they're so happy to buy a piece, and they're caretakers for another generation for an antique. And that makes us feel really great. It's not about flipping things. It's about connecting and telling the story and building a relationship, really. So it's very important to have that.
So I'd like to also understand why you got into, I understand that it began with the selling of antiques, and then you introduced your lines. And I understand the best way to present your lines and these antiques is physically. Why did you get into the paint business?
The paint business?
Well, there's several palettes that you said you contract with a paint company and you
Oh,
offer these colors. And it just seems to me, well, that's an unusual direction to go in. I can show them on the screen while you're talking.
I think it's a natural extension to Scandinavian design because, as it was mentioned earlier, Scandinavia didn't have the depth of pocket that, let's say, France and Italy had back in the day. And so these decorative finishes became very fashionable to mimic marble, porphyry, fine woods, because it was beech, birch, and alder and woods like that in Scandinavia. And so, you would take a pine drop leaf table and do this marbling technique on it, and it would turn into this fabulous marble-esque, Drottningholm Palace in Stockholm is all basically faux marbled and faux finished. And so paint is so important, and it comes from pigments in nature, copper, silver, indigo, you can go on zinc. I mean, you can go on forever and ever. And so, with having paint finishes that are so important in antiques, and using egg tempera to have these incredible multi-layered mineral pigmented antiques, you want to have, with the reproduction furniture, paint that is simpatico with an antique finish. So, we chose to work with Portola because they're mineral heavy, and their paints, they have a consistency that would be sort of more in keeping with a historic composition of paint. And so it doesn't fight the antique, it complements the antique. So in terms of color palettes, we chose historic colors that would have been used in the Gustavian period: grays, whites, blacks, Rococo, gold, black, Baroque, maybe not so much painted, or some, stronger reds. Later on in the country furniture, you have that fallen red, which is from the copper mineral. So, it's a wide, varied, and as Edie was saying, Scandinavian paint finishes aren't just gray, white, and blue. They are, the Almoga furniture, as you can see here, there's reds, there's deep blues, there's browns, there's ochres, there's, wide range of color, deep colors. So I think when we looked at our reproduction furniture, we chose palettes that would sort of, speak to those historic colors, and then a palette that spoke to sort of mid-century and arts and crafts, the Carl Larsson period and beyond. So that's why we, I think, went in those directions. And Portola is a very naturally based paint, and we used to work with Farrow and Ball. They changed their compositions a little bit, so we started working with Portola. But we can work with any, if you have a designer who wants a Benjamin Moore paint finish, we can do that too. And we've painted some chairs in some really funky, weird colors for people. But hey,
All right, guys, we're clear on Voice America. Have a great day.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So,
Thank you.
I just want to thank both of you. I mean, so even though Voice America had to go, I wanted to thank you so much. I mean, this was a really great show. I have a much better understanding for Scandinavian design, what it is, where it fits within, and how you started your business and how you have evolved your business. So it's been a really great understanding of a 30-year journey. Is that right? 30-year journey.
Wow.
In Scandinavian design. I want to thank my co-host, Roberto. Thank you. As
As
usual.
long as you buy quality, you kind of can't go wrong.
Right.
Yes. That's what I'm here for.
Roberto, that's
That
the
is
key.
my takeaway.
That's right.
That is the key. Yes, exactly.
That's the key, yeah.
I want to thank Pascal and Oyvind for joining us from overseas, our Scandinavian brothers. Thank you for
I hope you have some
participating and helping
Scandinavian
out
furniture.
Ooh,
and
look at
showing
that.
and doing a little
Oh,
bit of show and
yay.
tell.
Look at this.
Beautiful.
Here we have some more.
Oh my God.
Oh my gosh. And
That's
it's in
we have
Norway,
another
so
chest.
we can't take it out of the country.
Oh, yes,
No.
you can.
We
We
can.
can have the papers do for you. We can do the papers.
Okay.
We'll help you.
Well,
That
it's so
is
lovely to
beautiful.
meet you
Wow.
all.
Yes.
Yeah.
So thank
so
you
much.
all for
It was such a
participating. If
pleasure.
you like this show, tell your friends, hit the like button, like it,
Yeah.
share it, review it, and
Fabulous.
tell your mother. I will too.
Thank you.
So
Thank you
so
very much.
thank you, everybody, and I'll
Thank you.
see you next week for another
Take
show.
care.
Boroughs and Burbs 115.